Fighting out of Cincinnati.
With the support of his family, Tony was able to get back on track with his boxing career. When he faced James Bone Crusher Smith, the winner was promised a shot at the WBA title. The light was now at the end of the tunnel.
It seemed like it was the door opening up for him again. He fought a guy called Bone Crusher. No wonder they named this dude Bone Crusher. I was frightened when I saw just, how he was built, so strong looking. But I think my little boy would be able to handle it, So I sit there and relax at ringside, and after a couple of rounds, I thought it was going to be okay. It panned out that Tony won. This title shot was his ticket to the championship fight. Greg Page was holding the belt. I didn't feel too bad about this bout because I felt that he and Greg Page went back a long ways during amateur time. It was always a win and a lose between him and Greg Page.
I made it our payoff when it came down to the title. Basically the same way. It's like a chess game. We both know each other. For years, and know each other's style. He never changed. In fact, I grew a couple inches, so I was looking him eye to eye then. Wasn't looking up to him.
And Tubbs set out to even things from his amateur days. But this time, it was for the WBA title. At the end of 15 rounds, a new champion was crowned. Tony Tubbs had realized his dream and was now able to do for his family things he always wanted to do. Like provide a new home, a better, happier life, and a son to be proud of.
He's reached one of the goals that he's been striving so hard for. Finally, and hoping he can be champion for a while. Make Cincinnati real proud of him, and I know his family's already proud of him, and a lot of people are really in his corner, and hoping he'll be there for a while, and be able to hold the belt and get a few more belts.
The name of the game is boxing, and after this fight, they'll see my skills, and I take my skill into the ring with the best of them. I match skills with Pinkley Thomas, Mike Spinks, who I want to match my skill against them all. Because I know that win, lose, or what, I am still the better fighter than these. I'm still learning as a heavyweight, but my amateur background speaks for itself. I've been a champion practically all my life, and I hold my own against, the best of them.
So coming up, it's the battle for the WBA Heavyweight Championship between the champion Tony Tubbs and the challenger Tim Witherspoon.
But in a few minutes, we're going to see a different kind of profile. This kind of profile. One almost wants to avert one's eyes. In defense of a title that could be worth millions, Tony Tubbs is weighed in at perhaps 20 or 25 pounds more than he should. What can you say about such a thing? Sometimes youth does outrun its mistakes. He thinks it's sexy, but I don't know who else does. Although this is the year of the refrigerator, and the refrigerator's wife thinks he's sexy. The point is, of course, that Tony Tubbs isn't giving himself the best chance. So the question tonight is less whether this will become a showcase for his skills than whether he squanders those skills. And the companion question for Tim Witherspoon is whether he uses this opportunity, whether he is enough of a fighter to exploit the weaknesses in the champion, who is more sweet man than science man.
New WBC heavyweight champion of the world, terrible Tim Witherspoon.
For terrible Tim Witherspoon, the championship came much too quickly. Up until the Page fight, Witherspoon had been known more to the public for his loss to former WBC champion Larry Holmes than the 17 wins he had on his record. Going into the Page fight, he'd proclaimed himself the uncrowned champion. After that fight, the title and belt were all his. But Tim Witherspoon never got the accolades that go with being the heavyweight champion. As fast as he'd climbed to the top, he fell. And on August 31st, only 5 months after winning the title, he made his first defense against Pinkley Thomas. At the end of the evening, the title and belt belonged to the challenger.
And new WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Pinkley Thomas.
The loss was devastating, but sometimes a fighter needs to step back in order to move ahead. For Tim Witherspoon, there were still lessons to be learned.
I wasn't all you can say cocky. I was just positive, and I knew I could do these things. I knew I was the best heavyweight out there, and I felt as though nothing could stop me. No boxer could stop me. So So, you know, this was my problem. I had to cool down just a little bit.
He was in the fight. I had told him things to do in the fight, and he totally ignored it because his mind wasn't on the fight when he was fighting Pinklon Thomas. That, you know, it was like he didn't really care.
True, there was a lot of people around telling me, hey, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I shouldn't have listened to all that. I think I should have just thought about the fight, but it was too much. It was too much that night. You know, it was too much even way before that.
When Tim Witherspoon stepped into the ring that night, he had much more on his mind than Pinklon Thomas.
I have a sister, Cheryl. Her husband, she had just got married less than a year, and her husband, he had passed the same week of the fight. And my mother, you know, she had a major operation. She was in the hospital and had told my family, members of my family, not to say anything to me. But they went and told me anyway, and they're kind of like, wow.
Then there were the constant business battles with promoter Don King and manager Carl King. Witherspoon felt the Kings were helping themselves to too much of his purse and made numerous threats to pull out of the Thomas fight. Don King, on the other hand, saw the entire misunderstanding a result of the people hanging around Witherspoon.
It's the whisperers, the child carriers, the bucket carriers, whatever name they may go by. But they're the agitators, the guys who really whispers in the fighters' ear because they have a selfish and vested interest to try to attain for themselves, and so they play upon these fighters, or any star for that matter.
Since the Thomas fight, Witherspoon has become much more educated in the politics of boxing and realizes a good relationship with the Kings is a must.
I want to thank Don King for giving me, I'm really thanking him, that's my man, for giving me a second chance.
Now Witherspoon appears headed on the right path of becoming only the third heavyweight besides Floyd Patterson and Muhammad Ali to regain the title. And one more thing, the return of trainer Slim Jim Robinson, who brings a maturity and boxing expertise to the Witherspoon camp, allowing Tim to concentrate on only one thing, the heavyweight title.
I know what it is to fight for a title. I know what it is to keep it, and that's what I have to do because I have to have a family to feed. And I can't let nothing stay in the way. Whatever it is I have to take, or whatever I have to give, I just got to keep on going to make it be successful in life.
There was never any doubt that Tim Witherspoon possessed the tools to be champion. The only concern was his concentration in the ring. It now seems certain that tonight, when he steps into that ring, Witherspoon's only opponent will be WBA champion Tony Tubbs. So a look at Tim Witherspoon, and here he is on this night. He's been very calm before the fight, although I must say, Ray, he looks rather intense right here.
Well, this fight means a lot to him quite naturally, and I think he realizes that Tubbs is somewhat overweight, 18 pounds if you want to be accurate, and I think he sees an opportunity because it's going to be a slower Tubbs.
Tim Witherspoon does look rather fit right now. He's had some criticism of his style in a couple of fights.
The thing I like about Tim Witherspoon is that when he lost, he didn't crawl into a hole the way Michael Dokes and Jerry Cooney did. He came back from adversity. He had 5 fights last year. He won them all decisively. He made himself a hungry fighter, and he's still going for it. And that says a lot for a fighter.
Say that one of the reasons that he had trouble with Pinklon Thomas is he couldn't counter Thomas's jab. But tonight in Tony Tubbs, he meets a counter puncher. And there is a look at Tim Witherspoon's record. He's lost the 2 fights, 1 to Holmes, 1 to Thomas, 16 knockouts. He's not a guy that's going to go after the knockout necessarily, but he'll take it, obviously, if it's there. He's not a bad finisher. He does look very calm. That's always been a good sign for a fighter.
Well, he is calm, and what he really has going for himself is the fact that he's a conditioned fighter. I think what hurts him sometimes is personal problems, and it becomes a mental thing.
Because of those 2 losing fights, oddly enough, Witherspoon is favored by 2-1 tonight. He is better known to the public than the champion is. If the champion had come in his best shape, I'd have made him 2-1 favorite.
The fact is, if there's been any ongoing problem with Tim Witherspoon, perhaps it is his stamina. And the other side of that coin is true of the champion, Tony Tubbs. He's really been more effective in the later rounds than he has in the early rounds.
In this fight with Pinklon Thomas, he had this lackadaisical attitude. I mean, he was taking the jab of Pinklon Thomas. He can't afford to do the same thing with Tony Tubbs. Tony Tubbs is a very good boxer, superior boxer, movement. But again, the weight will slow down Tubbs.
The other criticism, of course, of Witherspoon is the fact that somebody once said he has one speed, slow. Now, the question about Tubbs is how slow is he going to be at 244 pounds?
Well, also there's a paradox about him, which is that he's big and strong, but he doesn't punch that hard. I don't think he's ever knocked down a top heavyweight, or that I can recall ever hurt anybody except Larry Holmes momentarily.
And so Tony Tubbs, the champion, prepares to come into the ring now. He says at 244 pounds he's all right. But he was also quoted back in 1979, and admittedly it's almost 7 years ago, when he fought a fight, an amateur fight, at 220 pounds. That's Leola Tubbs, his mother, who is at every one of her little boy's fights, as she puts it. In 1979, when he fought an amateur fight at 220, he said he's just too heavy, about 10 pounds too heavy. Now, again, I admit that's 7 years ago, but nevertheless, we are talking about a difference of 34 pounds if you count the fact that he said at that time at 210 is a good weight.
His MOS is that he's never really been a serious trainer. He calls himself TNT, and I know that doesn't mean totally nuts for training.
Should point out another thing about his weight also, and that is that Jimmy Ellis, who will be in his corner, just before the fight, when we spoke with Jimmy Ellis, Ellis said if he comes in at 225, 26, or 27, he'll be lean and ready. Well, here he is at 244. Now, his record, of course, cannot be questioned. 22-0. He has not fought the caliber of opponents that Tim Witherspoon has, however.
But you never know how good an unbeaten fighter is. You just never know. He may be the best of the whole bunch of them out there.
Well, I know. In fact, you did think that he was a very, very talented fighter, did you not, Larry?
I've always thought so, but I was mistaken in believing that he had matured to the point where he would take care of himself, because in his recent fights he did weigh around 225, 226.
He's never knocked out a name opponent, and that, of course, the factor. Once more, Leola Tubbs, his mother, at ringside here. And I'm sure she has fond hopes of being able to do that with her son after the fight. A look at the tail of the tape. A reach advantage for Tony Tubbs, but reach is really deceiving, I think, in the fact that it is wingspan that is measured, so we're really not talking about too much.
You know, we should also point out that Witherspoon, although he looks solid, weighs about 10, 12 pounds more than he did when he fought Larry Holmes a couple of years ago. More than he did when he fought Pinklon Thomas. I don't know whether that weight means anything to him, whether it's significant or not.
Common opponents, probably insignificant. You can see they had virtually the same results against Greg Page, Bone Crusher Smith, and Jerry Williams, almost identical. So there's really little to choose between these two.
And here is HBO's Punch Stat, our little toy that will give us a quantitative rather than a qualitative profile of the fight. You can see how many punches Tony Tubbs threw in some recent fights. In the fight against Miller, that was a 2-round knockout. And here are the jabs he throws. Although he has wonderfully fast hands, he doesn't always throw a lot of jabs, as you can see. And here is Tim Witherspoon. He throws more punches usually, but his fight against James Broad was also a 2-round knockout, so you have to throw that out. So generally, Witherspoon throws 40, 45 punches, and the other man throws 35, Tubbs. And here are the number of jabs. Again, this is just quantitative, not qualitative.
Here are the rules for the fight. 10-point must system. 3 judges will score the fight. There is not a standing 8 count, and the only time that you can be saved by the bell is in the final round. The 3 knockdown rule, as is the WBA rule, will be in effect. Right now, let's go up to the ring announcer, Brad Nessler, for the pre-fight introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the magnificent Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, Don King Productions, in association with the Omni, bring you King's Dream, a heavyweight boxing extravaganza. We ask that you now all rise and join our own Isaac Hayes for the national anthem.
Oh, stay, can you see by the dawn's early light what what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's bouts are sanctioned by the Georgia Boxing Commission in conjunction with the World Boxing Association. Members of the Georgia Boxing Commission at ringside with us: Asa Gordon, Carol Clark, Lindsey Rouse Jr., James Freeman, and Georgia Boxing Commission Chairman Lanny Franklin. Our judges for our main event at ringside: from Maryland, Harry Cencini. Judge number 2 from Arizona, Robert Ferrara. And our third judge from New Jersey, Edward Woods. Our timekeeper is Barry Richardson. Our knockdown timer is Kevin Corcoran. Our doctor at ringside, Dr. Jack Burge. Our referee and third man in the ring for this main event from Illinois, Nate Morgan. Our main event scheduled for 15 rounds for the WBA Heavyweight Championship of the World. First in the red corner from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, wearing blue trunks with white trim. He tipped the scales at 227 pounds. His record, 23 wins, 2 losses, 16 victory by knockout. Former world champion and current North American Boxing Federation heavyweight champ. He's ranked number 3 by the WBA. Welcome, Terrible Tim Witherspoon. Corner out of Cincinnati, Ohio, wearing white trunks with gold and black trim. He weighed in at 244 pounds. His record, 22 victories, no losses, 15 wins by knockout. The undefeated WBA heavyweight champion of the world, Tony TNT Tubbs.
Getting the early crowd support here, it seems. Nate Morgan, the referee. 15 years ago, Barry, you and I were here. Hold on here.
I will add, I'm going to let you guys fight as long as both your hands are free. When you're tired up, give me a clean break at all times and a clean fight. Shake hands now and good luck to you both.
15 years ago, we were both here for that fantastic event. Ali coming out of exile to fight Jerry Quarry. I look in this fight for Tubbs not to use his jab as much early in the fight, but to try to stay inside the wide swinging punches of Witherspoon. That's what a good boxer would do. Round 1, and we will see the pace of this fight early. It starts up very up-tempo. Right away, Tim Witherspoon went at Tony Tubbs. I'm sure he wants to keep that pressure going, knowing fully well, or assuming fully well, that Tubbs can't maintain the movement. Because Tubbs is trying to be elusive. Tubbs, the best he has going for him, he has beautiful hands, quick hands, beautiful combinations. Witherspoon, a very tenacious fighter, very physical fighter.
Getting a good look at this round, incidentally, from our handheld cameras. We're going to try and stay on that as much as possible. You get a real close-up look as to just how this fight is going. Tubbs going downstairs.
See, the reason I was criticizing the excess weight of Tony Tubbs is the fact that to fight a guy like Witherspoon, you need mobility. You have to be able to utilize the ring and keep moving.
And despite the fact that Tubbs is not one who really enjoys the rigors of training, he has been effective in later rounds. Both men looking to the body in the first round.
Keeping those hands out, Witherspoon.
Right hand in close by Tim Witherspoon.
The first round, very physical fight. Both guys just trying to initiate that respect and dictate the tempo of the fight. So far, they're even.
And again, Witherspoon going downstairs. Tubbs has been content to do that for the better part of this round as well. Good body shot by Tubbs.
Tubbs uses movement to get out of the way of those bombs thrown by Tim Witherspoon. I just want to see how long you can keep this up.
It's only the first round, but you really have a feeling that conditioning might become a very important part of this fight.
Good round now. Good round.
A pretty intense round.
Neither fighter did any real damage. Okay? Go to the right. Okay, I want you to throw a jab at his right and make it bring his left. Pop, go down on that right hand to the belly and come out with the left hook to the head, okay? The right hand to the belly and the left hook to the head, okay? Right behind the jab. Okay? You got it? You're facing your right. You want that round big.
All right,
okay?
breathe. Give me tongue. Give me tongue one more time.
You're working just like the script now.
You know what I mean?
He's hard. He knows not to knock.
This is Tim Witherspoon.
They need to keep that jab in his face, okay? Because you out jabbing him when you do jab, okay? You can't out jab you, okay? You're touching him with that jab. Touching him with that jab. Then you go with the right hand. Hit him with the left hook to the body. Then you put it on top. Okay, there you go.
That's Slim Jim Robinson, his trainer, talking.
Slim Jim Robinson, who has been called by some Tim Witherspoon's greatest asset. He engineered the near win over Larry Holmes.
A very fast-paced first round for both fighters.
It was a good shot by Witherspoon that backed Tubbs up against the ropes.
In fact, Witherspoon is much more the quicker starter, whereas at Tubbs utilizes the ring a great deal. There's that good left jab. But that first round, both fighters went at it. Downstairs, Witherspoon started working body.
Witherspoon starting up and then going down.
I wouldn't be surprised if Witherspoon stayed downstairs a couple of rounds and just to slow down Tubbs. Because I doubt very seriously if Tubbs can carry that weight for 15 rounds. Good jab, good left jab by Tony Tubbs.
Okay, your time up. Come on, your time up. Come on. Come on. Okay, all right. Come on, let's go.
Good counter punch to the body by Tubbs, who now opens up Witherspoon a little bit.
You saw the hand speed of Tony Tubbs.
We'll quite hear what referee Nate Morgan said to Tony Tubbs.
A very intense fight.
Okay, come on now.
Both fighters are really starting to get frustrated with each other.
Really up-tempo for a 15-round fight between two guys this big. Here at the Omni, incidentally, really into this fight.
Oh yeah, because I'm sure these guys, both guys have been talking for the past week or so.
And as we mentioned at the top of the show, this fight does have an added significance now. It's almost a case of sudden death because the loser is going to be out of the hunt. Tim Witherspoon breathing through his mouth, but he has done that historically. He's done it in every fight we've seen him in.
Which is a bad habit.
Tubbs got to stay closer to Witherspoon in that round than in the first round, and I believe he thinks that he has the quicker hands at close quarters.
Get to the right and maybe reach out to that wild left hook, get on and bang into the body, okay?
Here's a replay of slow-mo. We saw the wild right hand by Witherspoon, but he came back with a nice left to the body. And then Tubbs let loose with this salvo of punches.
He's leaning to your left.
And here are the number of punches that Tubbs has thrown through the 2 rounds, landing about a third. This is about his average, actually. Witherspoon has thrown a few more, and he's landed a higher percentage. Again, that is not a qualitative analysis, it's a quantitative analysis.
Well, speaking again about the fact that Witherspoon keeps that mouth open. It's a bad habit because you talk asking for a busted lip or either broken jaw. Keep that mouth shut.